visual arts has always been a large part of schooling. However, it always seems to be the first to disappear when the words budget cut are mentioned. Music, drama, film and television, visual art, dance and musical theatre are all subjects that fall under the category of the arts, but are slowly disappearing in schools around Australia. As 2014 began, it was announced that there was budget bad news by the Australian Federal Treasurer, Joe Hockey. As was expected, the arts did not feature heavily in the Abbott government's first budget listing, despite the fact that Hockey declared in his speech to Federal Parliament it was a budget that aims to build Australia's future. Studies have shown that students who study an art subject such as visual art, music, drama or dance have a higher level thinking in maths, reading, cognitive ability, critical thinking and verbal skills. Arts learning can also improve motivation, concentration, confidence and teamwork. So why is it always the first to see mass budget cuts?
I guess I've been involved as a guest with the arts faculty for years, just sort of turning my hand to whatever the geniuses up there need. So, whether it's vocal coaching or writing music or practicing with them or directing. And then, this year directing a film and making a film on a very, very tight, but generous in the context, but really tight budget, And so, for several years I've just been involved because I've got a real passion for it, and I think it's the, making art as a group is the most collaborative thing you can do with a bunch of kids, because you're exercising so many different intelligences as well as creativity. So I think it's like affect, kids that have a sense of belonging and fun and empowerment. If you can hit all three of those things in a classroom, then you're doing a great job as a teacher, and they're the best. I think that arts is the best way to access all of those. But also scientifically, it's just unequivocal that accessing the creative parts of your brain and being creative as well as accessing the intellect is the best way to grow your brain. And kids your age, your brain is so plastic and so malleable. The more connections you make early, the better. So when you were doing 3 and 4 creative tasks at once, even in musical theatre, sing, dance and act, the synapses that are firing off in your brain are exponential compared to other subjects. And we just know that because you can plug kids in with swimming caps these days. We don't even do it on chimps anymore. Where the arts funding needs to stay is in schools to build those skills and build the potential, because then you've got more of a critical threshold of talented people coming through. The problem with the arts cuts is things like Abbott and Newman. Newman was the one that did this. He cut the Premier's Literary Awards for $200,000, just sliced out of the budget, but not too long afterwards gave Big Brother on the Gold Coast $240,000. So the problem with cutting arts money is not necessarily that they're cutting the budget, but that governments just decide on what's art and what's not. And so I think that's a huge problem. And that's the old debate, like how much money should a government give for creative projects and all of that? Should you pay some bum, because he's been writing poems on the streets of Brisbane for 10 years or something, should you give him a wage? And that sort of thing, where you should, because we've got to support the arts, that sort of thing's going to die out. So what you need is to inject money in schools. Because you've got the best people, you've got trained people, industry professionals. We've got them here. I'm never going to get the same opportunities you get in school. I think that's why it's so valuable to keep arts funding in schools.
Well, one of the reasons was the fact that our arts department was really underfunded, so opportunities for the arts-based students wasn't very on a broad spectrum. The only performing stuff that you could really do was music-based, and I'm not a very musical person. Yeah, the arts was something I really wanted to look at in my future, because I'm really, really passionate about performing and doing acting and theatre and stuff like that, along with visual art studies. Arts is really important to students' education because they can learn to express themselves and be more comfortable with themselves and around their peers.
If a child is interested in following a career path in the arts, then why are we stunting their ability by cutting prerequisite subjects in their preferred subject? As a whole, we should be encouraging our youth to follow their dreams, not stunting their development in a possible career path. Not only are schools and the Abbott government slowly eliminating arts subjects from students' futures, But students' creativity is being killed by school authorities, parents, and the wider community regarding their future career goals, taking on the belief that arts careers are difficult to break into and not real-life jobs.
One time when I was going to a school event, it was the Future Leaders Conference. I was in a minibus with a principal from another school, and he asked me, "What do you want to do with your life?" I told him, I want to be a game designer. And he looks at me and he's like, "What? That's a really hard industry to get into. You got to have a backup plan. Why don't you make an app?" I was thinking, that's not what I want to do. That's not what I want to do with my life.
The arts gave me the strength to do a lot of stuff and to kind of push myself out there and be a better person and see the world and want to do stuff with my life as opposed to just what I wanted to do before was kind of like desk work. Now I'm like, I want to act and I want to do everything.
I have a daughter who wants to have a career in the arts. She currently is probably most interested in musical theatre, but trying to convince her that she wants to do a little bit more and expand across the arts. I'm supportive of her having a career in the arts now. I must admit, initially I was a little bit wary of her wanting to get into it. It's a very competitive industry. I know people who already work in the arts and I know what they've had to go through, and some of them have been very successful, others are still at my age struggling to break through. So while I'm supportive now and probably more supportive since I've seen her on stage and seen that she has some talent and some ability to actually get her through, prior to that I would say I wasn't supportive and I really thought it should be something more of a hobby that she did. However, now that I've actually seen that she's got some capability, totally supportive of what she wants to do. I think it's really important to fund the arts for schools purely because we need to make sure that our kids are rounded, we need to make sure that students are rounded, and we need to make sure that we're not just building cookie cutter subjects that everybody does. You're always going to get those kids who are natural scientists, those kids who love mathematics, the ones who love English, but at the same time you're also going to get those kids that want to do the arts and want to work in the arts, and that's where they learn the best. So I think it's really important that we have a well-rounded curriculum and that it's not just angled towards one thing or the other. I think we need to make sure that we cover all of our bases.
Annette Bird, a key woman in share company GlaxoSmithKline, once said, "We need people who think with the creative side of their brains. People who have played in a band, who have painted. It enhances symbiotic thinking capabilities. Not always thinking in the same paradigm. Learning how to kickstart a new idea or how to get a job done better, less expensively." With such an advanced generation, we should be encouraging our youth to strive to excel and follow their dreams.